Hello, everyone. Welcome into another episode of the East Alabama Works video podcast series. I'm Carl Brady, program manager for East Alabama Works. We represent Region 2 of the state of Alabama and the workforce regions from all around the state, the Alabama Workforce Council. And we have a special guest with us on the program today. We have Chip Rowan with us from beautiful Rainbow Cafe in Gadsden, part of the Gadsden City Schools system, and recent winner of the Governor's Work-Based Learning Award. And Chip, you guys are getting all kinds of awards and all kinds of recognition all over the state. So congratulations for that.
Oh, well, thank you so much. That was a great honor, winning the Governor's Seal of Excellence Award for Best Work-Based Learning Program in Alabama. So we're very proud of that.
Well, let's just get right down to it. We'll start with, give me a description of what Beautiful Rainbow is, and then we'll kind of get a little history and where you're going, all that kind of stuff. But just start me off with a quick description for the folks who aren't familiar with Beautiful Rainbow Cafe. Just give us a little idea of what's going on there.
Well, Beautiful Rainbow Cafe, as the name implies, is a cafe. It is a cafe or a restaurant open to the public here in Gadsden. It's located inside the Gadsden Public Library. And as you mentioned, the program is a part of the Gadsden Public Schools. So it's a partnership between the City of Gadsden, the Public Library, and the Gadsden City Schools. And the mission of the cafe is the cafe is completely run and staffed by students with significant cognitive disabilities and autism spectrum disorder. And the mission of the cafe is to use the operation of the cafe, growing of the food in our gardens, preparing the food, serving the food, and just doing everything that goes along with operating a business as a vehicle to teach those students skills they'll need to live more independently in the community and to get community-based employment when they finish their high school education.
And you guys have been extremely successful with this, and a lot of good buy-in from the community. But the best part is is the success you're having with the students. You're taking students who wouldn't have very many opportunities otherwise, and you're training them. They're learning well. And restaurants around the Etowah County and Gadsden area, and even surrounding areas, are hiring these students, and they're working, they're making a living, and supporting themselves in many ways. So that's your success story, right?
Well, yes, Carl, I won't go into all the details, but before we started Beautiful Rainbow, we did some research, and we were looking at the cohort of students that are on the alternate pathway, as they call it in high schools, students that are sometimes in what we call self-contained classrooms and aren't really integrated in with other typical students. And we were looking at what are the outcomes, what's happening to those people when they finish our high school program. And before we started Beautiful Rainbow, I looked at a group of 80 students that had graduated through to see, okay, what's up now? What are they doing now? And, we found that not a single one of them, Carl, not one, was employed in any capacity. And furthermore, out of those 80, not only were there none employed, but there were none that were enrolled in or participating in any kind of meaningful vocational program that would lead to community-based employment. So, that was the start of the whole thing, is just seeing what abysmal outcomes we were having in preparing our students for independent living and community-based work. So that's how Beautiful Rainbow, came about as a concept. And as you say, we've been extremely successful. We started placing our first students in 2019 and in community-based employment around Gadsden. And of course, we had a year of not being able to place people due to the pandemic. But so in essentially 2.5 years, we have placed 35 of our students. So 35 of them in community-based employment, like restaurants in Gadsden, hospital cafeterias, dietary services, in the hospitality industry and hotels, in school cafeterias. So really in a range of jobs throughout Gadsden, we've placed 35. So as I always like to say, 35 is a lot better than 0.
Yeah. What do you think is I'm just searching for the right word here, but going from students who were not getting a job or not moving on to anything post their high school to now, did the community just write these kids off as, well, they're not able to learn, or we don't take the time with them? And what was that connection point there where all of a sudden people are saying, hey, these kids have some value here, let's invest in them?
I think you hit the nail on the head, Carl. I think it's the expectations game, not just from people in the community, but even educators. I think have had unfortunately, very low expectations for this population of students, and feeling like, well, they're probably going to be dependent on their families. They're going to be dependent on public benefits, and just sort of accepting that as an acceptable outcome. And so what we've done that's different, and it's certainly not rocket science at all, but it's just a matter of changing our expectations. So our expectations are that these students can learn job skills, that they can function in a competitive workplace. They run the cafe here in Gadsden, and this is not just some little small 2 or 3 table hole in the wall. This is a popular cafe destination in Gadsden where we do a large volume every day at lunch, and the students are expected to make food from scratch. They're expected to serve the customers in a professional manner. They're expected to operate a point of sale system. And they're expected to succeed. And so just think about it. What is it like if you grow up from childhood with the idea that everybody's telling you, you can't do things, you can't do that, I need to do that for you. Here, let me do that for you. Then you grow up feeling kind of helpless yourself. And so one of our challenges is to not only change the expectations of ourselves and the community, but to change the expectations of the students about their own selves. And then they have an opportunity through working here to see that, hey, you know what? I can make a beautiful cake. I can put together a meal and go out and serve it, and people are going to pay good money for it. I can get 5-star reviews on food review websites. And then the transformation of those individuals from being, helpless and not able has changed to being fully able and even excelling in the work they do. So you absolutely put your finger on it. The key to success or failure in integrating these individuals into our workforce, I believe, is what are our expectations and what are their expectations of themselves.
Why the restaurant industry? Where did that come from?
Well, that simply came from the fact that I found I've been interested in cooking, not in a professional way. I don't have any professional background, but I like to cook. And I had found just throughout the years as a special education teacher that using hands-on experiences to teach all kinds of concepts, like teaching reading by using a recipe, teaching math by using measurements, that those were really good practical ways to teach the things I was supposed to teach. And I enjoyed it. And I felt like the students enjoyed it more than using a more, traditional approach with your old worksheets and your Dick and Jane books, that the students were more motivated by doing work-based learning activities. And so because I was interested in cooking, that was the work-based learning activity that I felt comfortable teaching and the students enjoyed. But you know what? When I think about other schools or other organizations wanting to replicate some aspects of what we're doing in work-based learning, it doesn't have to be a cafe. It doesn't have to be gardening. Any work-based learning enterprise in a school that's based on the student's interest or the teacher's interest, I think can be successful.
What kind of responses did you get when you decided you wanted to take this from teaching math and reading using recipes to let's see if we can actually run a restaurant through the school system and be successful with technical training for students? You take this to the school board and to people. What kind of reaction did you initially get?
Well, it's just the truth that at first a lot of people thought the idea was pretty far out there. There isn't, and we know this, there isn't another school-based restaurant run by students with special needs in the whole world. So to say that it was a unique idea is, is literally true. So at first, I think people thought, "Wow, is that something that that we can do?" And it was so, and especially considering we don't have any models for it. But because we had thought it through very, very carefully, and we had built the program, starting with just a little school-based enterprise in the school I was working with, I think we had proven that we had a good idea. And the director of special education here in the Gadsden City Schools, I wouldn't say the very first time I mentioned it to her, she was enthusiastic, but to her great credit, she came around and she served as the advocate for the program with the school board. We also had some really good support from the community, the Alabama State Department of Education, local civic organizations that we approached. We had been cultivating a community base of support for a while when we were just working out of the school system, by inviting people from around town to just come try the food. Every Thursday at the school, before we even opened the cafe, we would make some special food, and we would invite pastors and business leaders and government leaders and all those folks that are influencers in the community. We would invite them over to eat the food. So they were getting to know our students and our capabilities. And I think we had proven to the school system and the community that we were ready to take that big step. And, like I said, to their great credit, they took that leap of faith.
And then once you got the program started, you were able to partner with the public library. They had some space, and you guys turned that space into a cafe, a small little restaurant, and you guys have been going strong with that ever since.
Right. One of the VIPs that we invited to one of those tastings I just mentioned happened to be the then director of the Gadsden Public Library. And she said, I've got this space that's junky. And believe me, it was a junked up storage space. And she said, how about if you open a little bake shop or something in there and sell muffins or something? And I was like, we would love the space, but we really want the opportunity to go whole hog and open a cafe. And so we took that opportunity, and we did. And, we just passed our 5th anniversary of being open. We opened in 2017. And like I said, of course, we've had some challenges during the COVID time, but the cafe's now established itself, and it's very well known in Gadsden. And I think it's sort of a destination for some folks. We have a lot of regulars. I tell people, Carl, I'm sure you've heard me say this, that I felt like when we first opened here in the library, that some people would, they're going to come by to check it out, to, say, oh yeah, let's support these guys, and go show up. But but I knew that to be successful in the long term, we had to make sure we were putting out an excellent product. So we put a high value on the excellence of our food. And we have a garden to table concept where, as you know, we grow a lot of our own produce here on site with a couple of gardens we have. And when we prepare everything fresh and from scratch, and it's kind of an elevated palette of food. So we wanted to offer some high class food to Gadsden for a couple of reasons. One is because Gadsden needs more food operations like that. And second, because it was a point we wanted to prove, is that these students may have significant disabilities, but they're going to make some gourmet food now.
Tell us about your menu and the food that you serve.
Okay, well, it's a garden to table menu, as I mentioned, and an emphasis on fresh food. Our food is vegetarian, and we also have many vegan options. So, and some of the things on our menu would include very popular. We have make a vegetarian lasagna. That's, like I said, very popular. We make a plant-based burger. We also have a plant-based Italian sausage and peppers with linguine. We have a roasted red hummus wrap. Again, all of the ingredients that we use in these various dishes, we make ourselves. We have a quiche that we make every day from scratch with our own homemade crusts. We're known for some of our sweets. One of our students, Candido, has gotten famous from winning a bunch of cookie competitions for his giant chocolate swirl cookies. So they're on sale every day. We have, during the spring right now, we have a hummingbird cake that we make every day from scratch. You know, we partner with local businesses like Al's Hollow Farm, which is here in Etowah County, to help us with what we don't grow in our cakes and baking. We use a lot of King's olive oil from an olive oil company here in Gadsden. We use a dairy that's here in Etowah County, Day Spring Dairy, and we get eggs from a local farm too, known as Forgotten Ways Farm. So that's another big emphasis of our food, is to keep it local, to use local farms and vendors to keep it fresh and organic. And like I said, we want to have more of an elevated kind of approach to food. We don't want to make processed food or prepackaged food. We're really making real food for real people.
Absolutely. And the kids work hard. And I think it's important to point out, through a partnership with the Community Foundation of Northeast Alabama, the kids who are working in the cafe are being paid. And it's just not part of their school project. They're being paid, and they're learning money management skills and things like that as part of their training.
Absolutely. And that was a very key and important part to what we're trying to do here, because you do see some programs, and of course, co-op programs can be non-paid. There's nothing wrong with that. But it was such an opportunity for us to teach so many more things if we would pay the students. And the students deserve to be paid. They work really hard and produce this good product, so they deserve it. And by them getting a paycheck every week, you know, many of the students that started here really did not know how to count money. They don't understand necessarily the value of money or the relative value of money. You know, what in general things should cost. They certainly didn't know about wages or taxes or banking. So by paying them wages and doing it through an automatic deposit, where the students have to set up their own bank accounts, and in order to do that, they have to get an ID. So they're having to do things that we adults, you know, mostly take for granted. Of course, most of us have bank accounts and IDs and don't think anything about it. But these students wouldn't have had those things. And as they've been paid, you know, it's remarkable when you have your own money and you have to figure it out, and you get to buy things on your own, and you get to figure out if you have enough money to do what you want to do. Suddenly,
Yeah, you went on mute there for just a second. So can we make sure I've still got you there?
yes, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
there we go. There we go. Yeah, I saw your mute button come on for a second. Um,
Do you
let's.
think, do you want me to repeat that?
No, I think it just cut off the last couple of words there.
Okay.
So how do the students, how are they chosen? How do you choose who gets to participate in working in the cafe?
Okay, that's a good question. So the students are at Gadsden City High School between the ages of 16 and 21. And those are the students that we consider to be in transition, getting ready to move from the school into the community. And so we try to focus particularly on students in the self-contained classes and students on the alternate pathways. And so you might think of these as, I don't really necessarily love this terminology, but you know, often time they're referred to as the lower functioning students.
Mhm.
And we like to really focus on that population because they're the population that hasn't had the opportunities, as many opportunities as some others. And so this is an opportunity for them to then try their hand in a community-based work situation. So every semester and during the academic year, we take a look at the students that we have that are on the alternate pathway, and I consult with the other teachers, and we choose students based on a varying criteria. For instance, we might identify a student that we think with maybe a good semester or 6 months of intensive work in a work-based learning program, they might be ready to get a community-based job. So let's go ahead and invest that 6 months or that semester in that student. Or another different example might be that we have a student who is not being successful in the classroom because of maybe some behavior issues, that they have difficulty staying still or staying in a seat, and that they're very distractible. And we might want to try them in a work-based situation where they can be up and working and then therefore more productive. And there are students like that. Or we might choose a student that we think is very withdrawn and needs more social experience or more involvement in the public, with the public. And so that might be a reason why we choose to bring the student in, so that that student can work directly serving clients in a public situation. So we try to evaluate the students individually. Some students stay here longer than others too. So some students, like I said a minute ago, might be ready to go from our program into private employment in the course of 3 or 4 months. Others might need to stay longer while we develop their pace, we develop their capabilities a little bit more, and search for the right fit. Because when we place a student in competitive employment in the community, we want to maximize the chances that that student is going to be successful and
Right.
be not just employed, but retained as an employee and successful as an employee. So we work very carefully with our partners, and we're always looking for new partners in terms of employers to make sure that we get a good fit. So we're not in any hurry to just get people into a job just to say they get a job. We want to get them into a job that we think they have a realistic opportunity of retaining and flourishing in.
Talk a little bit about some of those partners. You say you've been able to place 35 students into real world job situations, and I hear from the restaurants around town and from people around town that your students are in demand. They're willing to give your beautiful rainbow students a chance. And actually looking for some of those students to come and be employees.
Well, that happened for a couple of reasons, Carl. One is because we have a restaurant open here for people to come here and see what the kids can do. So if you come eat here, then you're going to see what my students can do, and you're going to say, hey, they're not kidding. These guys can really operate a kitchen. They really can work with the equipment. They are doing it cleanly and safely. So that's one thing is they have the opportunity to check these guys out by just coming and eating. So that's an advantage we have. Also, it's pretty well known. Research shows that students with disabilities, workers with disabilities, tend to be very motivated workers, and generally have less absenteeism and are just more eager and have good attitudes about work. And I would say that's certainly true about the students that we've had here. So when you combine the fact that they've had this experience, they've learned some basics, and not only for food. I mean, we teach soft skills that could be applicable in any workplace, like how to get along with others, how to resolve conflict, how to have good job interviews, how to do good customer service in any kind of setting, because they've had that training, that experience, and they come with those positive attitudes and a good work ethic. And because the employers are getting to check them out ahead of time, I think you put all that together, and that makes us attractive to employers.
And then the success of the student once they do get those jobs, they're doing a good job for their employers, so the employers are willing to take a chance on other students as well.
That's right. And we've had students, one of the very first students, I guess the very first student that got employed from Beautiful Rainbow was employed like in 2019 at Blackstone Pizza, which is a very nice pizza place in Gadsden.
Mhm.
He's working there now after 3 years. He has been able to get several raises. He has been able to purchase a car and his own small home. So
Mhm.
he's a huge success story. So, and we have other students that are coming up on their first and second anniversaries of being with the same employer. So, they have been successful and they have been, valuable employees.
You mentioned the student buying a car. That is one thing in our workforce development world. We see a lot of challenges for everybody getting into the workforce, barriers into the workforce. And transportation has been something that you guys have had to deal with because a lot of your students don't have a driver's license or can't get a driver's license, but they still have to get to work. How have you addressed those barriers and been able to knock some of those down, maybe, or at least push them out of the way?
Well, those are big barriers, and you're right. Most of the students that we work with will probably not be drivers. Some are and have been successful with that, but most probably won't be. Well, in Gadsden, we do have a paratransit system. It's called DART, and we fully utilize that. It's a public transportation system. We teach our students how to utilize it, and they that's how they get to and from work every day is they take public transit. And that was another important skill that we wanted to impart to the students is how to get around and use services like public transit on your own. So that's what they do. For the most part, and we've been successful with that, and teaching students how to be successful in using a public transit system.
What do you do for the cafe during school breaks, during the summer, and things like that? Are you able to continue operating during the summer months?
Yes, we're open for the summer now. For during the school year, we follow a school calendar. So if the schools are out for Christmas or for spring break, then we are. Also, we're closed, but during the summer, we have the funding from the Alabama State Department of Education and some other sources to operate a summer program. So we remain open during the summer. And that's critical because we don't want that long 10-week break in
Mhm.
work-based learning program because of the skill loss that occurs during a break that long. And also as a business, you don't want to be closed for long periods of time when you've developed such a good customer base. Summer is also a great time to be working in the garden where we have some great produce coming on board. And we do approach our summer program a little bit differently in terms of some of the skills we have an opportunity to teach because the students are here longer during the summer per shift than they are during the school year. We can spend more time with them on important teaching things like the Serve Safe curriculum, which is an important curriculum we use from the National Restaurant Association. When our students finish that curriculum, and Serve Safe curriculum is teaching people how to work in the food industry in a clean and safe manner. And it's a very sophisticated curriculum. And at the end of the curriculum, you have an opportunity to pass a online test to become what's called a Serve Safe manager. And that's an important credential in the food industry that if you have that credential, it really enhances your employability. So during the summer, we focus a lot on getting more of our students Serve Safe certified. And so summer program is going to be starting up in about a month, and it's always fun. And oh, by the way,
Mhm.
for customers during the summer, we have what we call as Ice Cream Friday, which means homemade ice cream every Friday.
Ooh, you probably should not have told me that.
So you have to get the Gadsden on Fridays during the summer, Carl.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what does the future look like for Beautiful Rainbow and your program? What are you looking forward to in the time to come?
Well, of course, the cafe is going to continue to operate at the high level it is, and we're always looking for ways to improve our practices and every aspect of it. But I think that what's happening more to us recently is that we, as a program, are being challenged by, the people at the Department of Labor, Department of Commerce, Department of Education. We're being challenged to share some of our practices in an effort to encourage others around Alabama to, rethink the abilities of students with disabilities. So we've been working very carefully and consciously with those entities, for instance, to develop a new website that's called beautifulrainbowtraining.com, where we have developed instructional videos teaching students some of the skills I mentioned a minute ago, like how to resolve a conflict or how to speak to customers on the phone or how to have good job interviews. We have developed some high production value instructional videos accompanied with detailed lesson plans, and we've built these onto a website and are offering them free of charge to Alabama teachers and rehabilitation counselors and job coaches to use with their students with disabilities in an effort to encourage folks all around Alabama to try some of these techniques that have worked for us. We often are asked to share our experiences, and we have many teachers from around the state and administrators that come and visit the cafe and want to see how we do things. Well, this is a way that we can share how we teach. So we have about 36 instructional videos on that website that teachers can, like I said, all you have to do is go on to the website and create a login, and then you have access to all that material free. And we are continually adding more instructional videos, including those that we use to teach the ServSafe curriculum and other food safety certification curriculums. These are designed specifically for students with significant disabilities. And we've gotten really good feedback from teachers all over Alabama who've used them, that their students find them fun and engaging, and given them a new way to teach some of the skills that we teach here at the cafe.
So that website is Beautiful Rainbow Training, correct?
Yes, beautifulrainbowtraining.com. And like I said, all teachers or rehab counselors, job coaches have to do is create a login, and then you've got access to all that material and you can share it with your students. And we find that students like them because the stars of these videos are our students themselves. So these are not actors. This is not a lot of boring voiceovers and things that you see in some other online materials, but this is stuff that is designed especially for this population. And there's not a lot of resources out there like that. So I think that's what we're focused on is in the future, is not only maintaining excellence in our own program, but trying to share our experiences and what expertise we may have gained with others, so that they can develop their own work-based programs with people with disabilities.
And you have a regular website as well. It's just beautifulrainbowcafe.com, where people can learn more about the cafe and the program and meet some of the students who have been participating as well.
That's right. And learn about some of our community partners, because that's a critical piece, as you've mentioned. So, yeah, both of those websites, we encourage people to visit.
What about catering? I've been to some events where you guys have done some of the desserts or some of the catering. Is that something you guys do on a regular basis?
Yes, actually, Carl, that was one of the main ways we got started. Even before the cafe opened, while we were still operating out of a middle school, one way that we built is that we were invited to cater a number of community events, large and small, and we did that. And I think that's how a lot of people got to learn about us. We still do that. We just finished helping cater the big RAM Health Fair here in Gadsden, which was a free health program, and we fed many of the volunteers. So it's important for us to be involved in the community and have that visibility, and for the students to, many of them haven't had the opportunity to go out and work in the public. And so this is an opportunity to get them out there and for the public to see our guys too.
Absolutely. Well, Chip, congratulations on a great program. Congratulations on the recent awards that you've won. And we wish you all the best in working with the students and Beautiful Rainbow Cafe. Is there anything that I didn't ask you about that you'd like for us to end on before we go?
Well, we'd love for people to come visit us. We're open Tuesday through Friday for lunch from 11 to 1:15. Afterwards, we remain open until 5, offering sweets, cakes, cookies, tea, smoothies, coffee. So I think the best, it's one thing, as you know, to hear about a program or to even see video of a program. For a program like this, what we really, really love is for people to come in and see it themselves. Come eat, have a nice meal. The kitchen is completely open, so you get to see the students doing the work. And we always enjoy people coming in and seeing what our guys can do. So encourage people to come visit.
Sounds good. Chip Rowan with Beautiful Rainbow Cafe in Gadsden. Chip, again, thank you for taking the time with us today, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you, Carl.
And thank you for joining us with the East Alabama Works video podcast series. We'll see you next time.